and they were both found dead. She must have been out of her head.
Oh my god, this is literally the dumbest man on earth. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. On June 26, 2023, Patrick Profright and his wife were having an argument. Now, they had just had a baby that was only 3 weeks old, so the argument was early in the morning, which is understandable because they are suffering from lack of sleep and just a whole new adjustment. While Patrick's wife was holding the baby, Patrick entered the room holding a crossbow. The mood immediately shifted, and trigger warning, it's about to get dark. He allegedly raised the bow and shot at his wife. When he did, it accidentally hit his 3-week-old baby and his wife. He then pulled the arrow out of his wife and begged her not to call 911, but when she did regardless, he fled the scene. Thankfully, he was found and arrested and charged with second-degree murder and attempted, and his wife was okay. Unfortunately, the baby did pass away.
29-year-old April Holt was found deceased in her home.
Her name is April Lyn Holt. On July 28th, she woke up, drank her coffee, journaled as usual, enjoying her peaceful morning, hugged and kissed her 7-year-old son Denzel, and her husband then went into the bathroom and began to argue and fight. My 7-year-old grandson put his ear to the door and heard his parents fighting, and he looked underneath to see both of their feet. He then listened some more, but he couldn't understand what they were saying, and so he looked back under the door again, where he saw my daughter laying on the ground. He then ran to his room. His dad shortly after came into his room, and he got him dressed, and he fed him. And he then had him go check on his mom. He asked him to go check on his mom, and when she unlocked the door by himself and saw his mom not breathing with a bag over her head on the ground.
This YouTube chef is accused of killing his lover. Daniel Sancho Broncalo is a 29-year-old celebrity cook and the son of 2 Spanish film stars. 44-year-old Colombian plastic surgeon Edwin Artiga had apparently been dating Daniel. However, it's thought that when Daniel tried to break up the relationship, things took a dark turn. Daniel claims that Edwin threatened to release intimate photos of him in retaliation. Daniel states that Edwin was so obsessed with him that it ruined his relationship with his girlfriend. It's alleged that Daniel was really worried with the impact that leaked photos would have on his family's reputation. He was allegedly so worried that he would go on to kill Edwin. Now, the pair were actually in Thailand at the time and were at a full moon party when Edwin was brutally killed. Edwin's body parts, including hips and thighs, were found by locals in plastic bags at a landfill site. Authorities claim that Daniel has admitted to the killing and dismembering. Daniel has denied that the murder was premeditated, but Thai authorities state that it was. CCTV images allegedly show Daniel buying a knife, cleaning products, and gloves prior to the murder. He currently faces the death penalty if found guilty.
News: they have found 7 bodies on a property while searching for 2 missing teens. Authorities say the 2 missing teens went to spend the night at the suspect's home on Saturday as they were friends with his daughters. However, when the girls never returned home on Sunday, their parents issued a missing persons report. After the missing persons report was issued, authorities say they were seen driving with the suspect in his pickup truck around 1:30 a.m. on Monday. The suspect, McFadden, is also a registered SA offender and was set to appear in court on Monday on charges unrelated to the 2 girls. He did not appear, and it was at that time a bench warrant was issued. When authorities arrived at his home around 3 p.m. on Monday, that is when they made the discovery of all 7 bodies. At this time, they've only identified 3 of the 7 bodies, 2 of which are the missing teen girls and 1 which is the suspect, McFadden. Additionally, on Monday, they said that he was also texting the person who he was supposed to appear in court on charges related to. Here's what those text messages said. Quote, "I did exactly what I promised I would do when I got out. I got a marketing job, great money, and was being advanced. Been there 2 years now and made great life like I promised I would do with you." He continues by saying, quote, "Now it's all gone. I told you I wouldn't go back. This is all on you for continuing this." At this time, police have not provided any further details, but I'll keep you guys updated. What do you guys think? Drop in the comments.
A wedding in Iraq has turned into total devastation after 119 of the guests were killed after the venue caught fire. Even more horrific is the fact that 27 of those people were under the age of 12. The tragedy took place this past Tuesday when 1,000 of the wedding guests were watching the bride and groom do the traditional first dance. To make the moment more special, the venue lit off these 4 giant sparklers, which caught the chandelier above on fire. Please be warned, the video I'm about to show is hard to watch. So these sparklers go off, and it caught the chandelier on fire. And to make this even more frightening, once the building caught fire, the lights went out. Without being able to see, having zero emergency exit, and there was no sprinkler system, people were unable to find their way to the main entrance. It took just minutes for the entire building to be engulfed in flames. Unbeknownst to anyone at the time, the walls of this building were made of the very flammable polyethylene. Prime Minister Sudani went to visit the more than 80 people still in the hospital. He also said that 12 people have been life-flighted to other countries to their burn unit. Authorities are holding the owner of the building, his 2 business partners, and the mayor accountable for this horrific tragedy. It recently came out that all of them were aware of the fact that this building did not meet the fire safety regulations. The Prime Minister has also said that people will be held accountable and the victims will receive compensation. Fortunately, the bride and groom both survived, and of course this tragedy was not their fault, but they said they feel so much shame over what has happened, they're going to leave the town.
What if it happened to you on a different day, on a bridge where there wasn't a rail in the way, or a neighborhood street where...
A man is charged with murder after joking that his ex would end up like Gabby Petito. 26-year-old Madeline Kingsbury from Minnesota was found dead in June. She was a mother of 2 and dropped her children off at daycare on March the 31st, shortly before going missing under suspicious circumstances. She was tragically discovered dead on June the 7th in a wooded area in Fillmore County. At the time she went missing, her ex-boyfriend, 29-year-old Adam Fravel, denied any involvement. He stated, "I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want that more than anything." However, behind the scenes, things had not been as they seemed. The pair were newly separated and were in the process of moving out of their home together. They had apparently had an on-off relationship. Madeline's body was discovered near a rural property owned by Adam's parents. She was wrapped in a grey fitted sheet which had apparently come from the home that they shared together. He was arrested the same day that Madeline's remains were found. When being arrested by police, Adam unnervingly mentioned Gabby Petito multiple times. Police state that he admitted to being infatuated with the Gabby Petito case. He also admitted that he made a statement to Madeline about her ending up like Gabby. For those that don't know the Gabby Petito case, she was a 22-year-old girl who was strangled to death by her fiancé back in 2021. Police state that Adam claimed he was trying to make a joke. Texts were also found between the pair in 2021, and in one text, Madeline references a physical altercation they had. She wrote, "You know I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier." Adam is charged with her murder and could face life in prison.
So this guy, this serial killer who I'd never heard of, killed a lot of people. Just a few days ago, this dude decides, hey, you know what would be a great idea is making inappropriate comments about my cellmate's children. Now, the cellmate happened to be a convicted murderer. I know what you're thinking, that's a recipe for some swift fucking justice, and you'd be right. So what this guy Billy Shamirmir would do was he would break into these senior living homes, or he would just knock on these old women's doors at their houses and be like, hey, maintenance. And once he was inside, it would always be the same. He would put a pillow over their face until they weren't breathing anymore. And why? What was the motive in all this? He just wanted their jewelry. He just wanted their belongings. 7 of 91-year-old Mary Bartell's neighbors had turned up dead in their retirement home before Mary got a knock on her door, but there was no concern in the air because all the deaths were just ruled natural causes. He told her, just go to bed, don't fight me, and then he forced that pillow over her face, but This time, things went a little different. He left, thinking he finished what he came to do, but Mary woke up and told the cops what happened, which prompted the police to start looking at these deaths. Now, as they're investigating this and they start to see a pattern, things going missing from the building, all that, they also find that a vehicle has been flagged across multiple senior living homes as being a suspicious vehicle. They look at the license plate on that vehicle, and it leads them to Shamir Mir's apartment, where they find Shamir Mir literally with jewelry in his hands in the parking lot of his building, having just disposed of a jewelry box of another 81-year-old woman who, when they go to her house, find her deceased with a lipstick-stained pillow by her side. Now, he had done this to 22 women over a 2-year period, and what also probably made it easier for this guy is he was actually a former at-home care aide. So anyway, Shamir Mir just earlier this week makes those inappropriate comments about his cellmate's children. Well, that of course turned out to be a fatal mistake, and Shamir Mir was dragged out into the hallway and had a beating and a pen stabbing laid on him for the tiny window of 15 to 20 minutes before anybody working there did anything.
This social media influencer was murdered by her husband, and it's the perfect example of why you should not believe everything you see on social media. Alexis Sharkey was born in Pennsylvania. She was described as one of those people that just literally lit up the room when she walked in. She was kind, she was smart, she was funny, and she just wanted to see other people smile. As you can see, Alexis was incredibly beautiful, so it's not surprising that she built a following on social media. Alexis would eventually meet and marry a man named Tom Sharkey. From the outside looking in, it seemed like their relationship was absolutely perfect and beautiful. Alexis would often share photos of their adventures together, and they just seemed to be very much in love and like they had the perfect life. But on a girls' weekend getaway trip, Alexis started opening up to her friends, saying that she was actually scared of Tom. She started telling them that she was the victim of DV and that Tom was very violent with her. And things would get even worse from here. On November 22nd of 2020, Alexis shared some photos to social media, and this was the last time she would ever post. On the 25th, Alexis called her mother and they started making plans for their Christmas trip. That would be the last time that Alexis would speak with anybody outside of Tom. November 26th of 2020 was Thanksgiving. Tom says that he and Alexis had Thanksgiving lunch together, and that was one of the last times that he saw her. By November 27th, Tom was reaching out to friends and family asking if anyone had seen Alexis because he hadn't. Tom would go on to tell police that Alexis had been intoxicated and he had asked her not to leave, but she did anyway, and then he didn't see her again. And on November 28th of 2020, there was a body found pretty close to the apartments that Tom and Alexis lived in. The body that was found was completely nude, and police believe that this body was dumped in the location because the bottom of her feet were completely clean. So it's not like she walked there. Tom would go to the coroner's office later in that day and identify his wife. It was, in fact, Alexis. And at first it seemed like maybe Tom was just a grieving husband, but soon his behavior changed dramatically. Instead of helping Alexis's family plan for her funeral, he refused to help at all. In fact, it got to the point where he was taken off as next of kin, and Alexis's mother was actually put on as next of kin. I'll get into more in part 2. Give me a couple of minutes to film it and get it up. It'll be down in the comments.
Huge trigger warning for this case as it is very upsetting. 37-year-old Nancy Johnson from Alabama and her children were found deceased on the 28th of September. The mother of two drowned her children in the bath before taking her own life. Her children were 2-year-old Jacob and 5-year-old Maya. She also allegedly cut her daughter's throat. She then is believed to have unalived herself with a silk belt in a hallway wardrobe. The children's autopsies showed that they died from drowning, but Maya's blood loss contributed to her death. Heartbreakingly, the children's dad, Derek, was actually the one that found them. He found the bodies of the children on a sofa underneath a blanket. Nancy and Derek were in the middle of divorce proceedings and a custody battle. Nancy also had a history of mental illness. The parents had been ordered by a judge to start seeing the children on alternate weeks. The The arrangement was due to start in just a matter of days. The dad wrote, "The amount of happiness and love that emanated from Mia and Jacob was very apparent to all that they were around. Our house was filled with joy and happiness. Their future was so bright in every way possible."
Celebrities that disappeared and were never found. Bison Dele played in the NBA for 8 years and even won a championship with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in 1997. In 1999, he abruptly retired from basketball at the age of 30, walking away from a 5-year, $36 million contract. On July 6, 2002, Dele, his older brother Miles Dayboard, his girlfriend Serena Carla, and skipper Bertrand Saldo left Tahiti on Dele's catamaran. Only Dayboard was seen or heard from after July 8. 2 months later, Dayboard was caught in Phoenix trying to buy $150,000 worth of gold using his brother's name, but he was not arrested. Dele's boat was eventually located in Tahiti, riddled with bullet holes that had been patched up. Dayboard was suspected of killing all three and dumping them overboard, but he took his life via an insulin overdose in September 2002. Before he could be charged with anything, the bodies of Dele, Carla, and Saldo have never been found.
This is Funky Town, one of the worst cartel execution videos explained. Okay, before I begin, this is a massive trigger warning. The video begins in some sort of room and there is music playing. The first song that plays is Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, and the camera pans to the victim tied on the floor with some plastic wire, but the torture already began before the video starts, because the victim looks like he already went through complete brutality. His hands have already been cut off and his face has been completely flayed, which means skinned. There is no skin on the victim's face at all, and his eyes have been gouged out. And there is an insane amount of blood on the floor, but the most messed up part about this is that the victim is hooked up to some sort of IV, and the IV is pumping him with drugs to keep him alive and aware, making sure he felt everything happening to him. At the start of the video, they try and slit his throat with a sickle and press it against his jaw. But when the victim begins to scream, they shove a box cutter in his mouth to shut him up. His screams are absolutely gut-turning. They kept going from screaming to gurgling, from screaming to gurgling. And as the video progresses, they take the box cutter and slit his throat about 40 times. And keep in mind, the victim is still alive and aware of everything because of the drugs they are giving him to keep him alive. Also, the killers are mocking and laughing at the victim the entire time. They continue to try and slit his throat with the box cutter and were going at his neck numerous times, all while the song Funky Town was playing in the background, hence the name of the video. The killers kept having to physically restrain the victim, meaning there was still a lot of life left in him, and the amount of pain he had to be in is completely unimaginable. At one point in the video, a man had his foot on his chest holding him down, and another time they had shoved a pole in his mouth holding him in place. But the worst part about the video is towards the end, where the victim manages to loosen his arms from the restraints and immediately tries to touch his face. But remember, the victim has no face at all, no hands, and no eyes. But instinctively, the victim still tries to touch his face. It's absolutely horrifying, and the video then concludes. Keep in mind, the victim was still alive when the video ended, so who knows what else they did to him before he died. Because they were literally keeping him alive just to torture him. This victim went through so much pain and torment, and you can make an argument that nobody has ever been tortured as bad as this guy ever. I explain this based off pure memory from the first time I saw the video, because I won't dare watch it again because it's that gruesome. Everybody who saw videos like this always say Funky Town is the worst of the worst. And I honestly think that might be true, so please don't watch it and please don't search it up.
This is probably one of the worst true crime cases that I've ever heard of. In August of 2019, David Sumney brutally beat his mom to death and then took 277 photos on his cell phone of the gruesome crime scene. The photos included selfies with her body, posing with blood smeared on his face, and even a photo of him giving a thumbs up. After he brutally killed her, he put her body in the bathtub and proceeded to record himself washing off her corpse. When the family couldn't get a hold of 67-year-old Margaret Sumney on August 31st, 2019, they knew something was wrong. After trying for 2 days with no success, they had the police conduct a welfare check at her Pennsylvania home. When authorities couldn't reach Margaret, they forcibly entered the home where they discovered shattered glass everywhere and blood smeared on the walls and furniture. Upon investigating, they then found Margaret's badly beaten body in her bathtub. According to the autopsy report, she died from blunt force trauma to the head, neck, and torso. When interviewed by authorities, David initially stated he had nothing to do with his mom's murder. But when police searched his phone, they found the 277 gruesome photos. Along with that, authorities also found Margaret's jewelry and 3 of her blank checks inside of a hotel room where David had been staying. David was arrested on September 4th, and during his trial, a defense expert stated that at the time of the murder, he had taken a high dosage of Adderall, which caused diminished mental capacity. His lawyer argued that the murder was strictly due to drug and alcohol use. David was initially facing a first-degree murder charge as well as abuse of a corpse, and if he was charged with that, he would have faced life in prison without parole. But unfortunately, he was allowed to enter a guilty plea, which dropped both of those charges, and instead he pleaded guilty to third-degree murder. He was sentenced to 20 to 40 years in prison, but since he's been behind bars since his arrest in 2019, he could potentially be released in just 17 years. And the scary part is that according to prison employees, they consider David a model prisoner who attends Bible studies with other inmates. And this makes the reality of him being released so soon a real possibility. It should be noted though that David had been arrested twice in the past for assaulting his mother and once for attacking his now deceased father. Adding to this, he also faces a pending case for allegedly waterboarding and strangling an ex-girlfriend, which also took place the year of the murder. David Sumney is a terrifying man, and the fact that he could ever be released back into society is a terrifying thing.